The reason we've got a pruning workshop today is I want to learn how to prune a bit better.
So you can see that you've been pruning your trees religiously for the last however long, Murray. Tell us how you're doing it.
Yeah, so we've got these trees that are set up as espalier fruit trees. We've got 4 wires here, and on most trees we've got that framework. So, you know, we made a cut here and we've trained those out. As I said before, we let these grow up at a 45, attach them to the wire as they grow. Once we've got that framework, the tree wants to go up and seek the sun. Yes, the reason you bother to do all that setup is, well, you're restricting the height. You can get a net over it. You can pick all the fruit without a ladder.
Yeah.
You can get an astonishing amount of fruit off these little trees.
Yeah.
I mean, how seductive does an espalier? I've got an espalier orchard, not just an orchard.
These are the heading cuts from last year or some time. I mean, a branch like that, when you cut it short like that, if it's producing lots of branches, you're going to get a lot of crowding. I would be more inclined to go back to a cut like that. It's growing more that way, and then work with turning that into a fruiting branch. But you know, you don't want the tree to spend resources trying to keep an unhealthy branch alive when you could cut it back to the next healthy spot. And you know, like in this case, we've cut that one. That's going to be a nice healthy growth there. You can see that's really healthy and clean. Just you can see that's dead at the top there, folks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's, you know, so you want to like get back to healthy growth on that. And the other thing is for some of these side branches, like normally with an espalier, the main frames will then have laterals coming off, but these are also turning into main frames now. So they're not going to fruit on that wood. And it's always good to do that thing where you follow a limb, you know, like you go that whole limb and you look at it and you kind of go, okay, well, let's just do a limb.
Let's look at some renovation on this.
All this needs is just some thinning out. Everything else is pretty good. I want to keep all my laterals nice and compact. So in summer, I'd probably come back to this one and I would just prune it back to pencil thickness or something like that. So that's a whole branch then that's just really solid and can hold a lot of fruit. So really the only cuts I'm doing at the moment is damaged, dead, and just too congested. Take that one out, maybe. You kind of pick your lengths of your laterals that you want them at, and you just have laterals all along that main stem. That's a good lateral there. You see that length there? It's got all these, that'll hold fruit all along that. So if I want to regenerate a lateral that's getting really old, like say this one was getting really old, I would prune it back to a bud. I'd find a bud here and I'd prune it there, hard cut in winter, and that's going to regenerate some new vegetative growth. We could take more off, but at the same time, there's space between everything now, and you know, it's good enough. All right, let's go
over to the apricot.
So when this tree was young, to get it to side branch, Murray did heading cuts, and then it regrew 2 side ones, but it also grew from a bud that went up. You know, these become then his main framework. So at this stage, out of those are coming all the laterals. These ones are all very short. It's not a vigorous tree, like Murray said. Whereas if you look at a tree like this, they're very vigorous. Those are going to then produce fruit, and that branch is really not going to be able to hold all that. If you haven't done a winter prune, once those flowers fall off and it starts to grow fruit, you can come back and you could thin that branch. Yeah, you want it to be a fruiting branch, not a vegetative branch. So if I do a cut in winter on this, I'm going to encourage vegetative growth, whereas a summer cut is going to be encourage more fruiting growth.
Yeah.
And you see what happens when you make a hard cut is you get all this regrowth.
Yeah.
And you know, if you do a hard cut in winter and then you get these water shoots, you can prune them out in spring. You know, when you find these limbs that are growing up like this, not doing heading cuts, you're finding limbs that are growing horizontally. Yeah. It's quite congested. Yeah. And you are getting like signs of disease and stuff there as well. We've ascertained this whole bit's dead. It's dead. So I'm just doing it on a slight angle so that water doesn't pool on it.
Good job.
Yes.
Well spotted, you guys.
Yes.
That looks way better.
Yeah. Okay. Now would be a good time just to renovate, prune it, because you're going to create a lot of healthy new growth. It's going to be strong and healthy. So how would you get lots of new growth on this tree, folks? Would you prune it hard or soft?
Hard.
At what time of year?
Now.
Yeah. You know, this one's quite long before it gets to any fruit. I mean, that's got to go all the way from there, all along there, all along there, and then the fruit's right at the extremity there. So cutting it back will mean that you're generating fruiting wood much closer to the base of the tree, which means it's got to travel less far to get to where it needs to make fruit. I mean, this is the thing with pruning. You could do it a number of ways. Yeah.